Well, let's get more on this now with economist Vicky Pryce in London. She's a board member at the Centre for Economics and Business Research. And in Frankfurt, we have Carsten Brzeski, Global Head of Macro Research at ING. Welcome to you both. Vicky, if I could just start with you. We know the British Prime Minister Boris Johnson has been somewhat preoccupied with other matters right now, but his Cabinet Office did manage to release a 102-page report detailing what the government has described as the benefits of Brexit. In it, the Prime Minister says the bolder the UK is in targeting opportunities afforded by leaving the EU, the greater the gains will be for us all. Do you agree with that premise? Do you think the UK will be better off being out of the European Union?
The problem is that we haven't really seen any of the benefits so far. I mean, it would be nice to be able to see them, but even on the regulatory front, where the idea had been that there will be a bonfire of regulations. Now we no longer need to apply quite a lot of EU regulations in the UK. That has in itself not happened. So it is a real issue as to where some of those benefits are. And it is true, as they say in the report, that we have struck a number of trade deals. And now, of course, we have checks at the border for imports too, which have started from the beginning of this year.
We've also seen miles and miles of trucks piling up at the port of Dover because of new checks both by the UK and the European Union. Do you blame Brexit for this problem that we're seeing now?
Well, I wouldn't blame anyone, but I think we can just find here causes of what has happened. And I think, Brexit now, or the final stage of Brexit, also coincided with COVID and the COVID restrictions. I think this has made the entire trade even more complicated, because you remember that even European countries started to use borders with each other again. So there was not only Dover and borders between the EU and the UK, but it was also within the EU. So in general, logistics, traffic had been much more complicated. The labor shortage in general is not only a UK-specific problem. Yes, it started in the UK, and we had this last December. It was clearly enhanced by Brexit, by the lack of EU workers. But we've also seen that throughout the pandemic in the EU, in the Eurozone, there was simply less mobility. There was less labor mobility because people simply left their host countries and went back home.
And Vicky, part of the reason why Boris Johnson really pushed for Brexit was to what he's described as unshackle the UK from the EU's outdated laws. And in fact, his government has introduced a bill known as the Brexit Freedoms Bill to make it easier to amend outdated EU laws. These laws were preserved after Brexit just to ensure that legal continuity. But now he says it's time to perhaps review them. Do they need reviewing or rewriting?
Some probably do, because they may be quite outdated, but in reality, as we know, if we want to continue to trade with the EU, and if we want to continue to have the agreement that we signed still being accepted by the EU, because if we depart too much from what we've agreed, then that whole agreement could be void, then we have to follow quite a lot of EU regulations, whether we like it or not. And I think that's what's going on right now. It's one of the reasons why nothing very much has happened. What is also going on in terms of regulations is that all those regulations in terms of importing and exporting have added to all the costs that businesses were facing anyway. And that's a real problem. And what happens here is that the Office for National Statistics checks the extent to which there's additional paperwork, additional checks and so on, and whether any of those are related to COVID or they're related to Brexit. And the Brexit ones increased very significantly since we left properly the beginning of 2021. And the ones for COVID, of course, have been reduced quite significantly.
And Carsten, in what ways does the European Union lose out on having the UK outside of its single market?
Well, in terms of the economy, hardly, because we've seen now that the UK has clearly dropped in importance for European trade. Remember that in the past, the EU was always amongst the top five most important trading partners, and this has dropped. The UK have dropped out of the of this top five list. So obviously, the EU loses an important member of the European Union in terms of policy making. Also, an important counterweight to some extent to what some people call the the French-German axis in the past. But I think that has always been clear from the beginning of the entire Brexit saga that the UK will clearly lose out much more from leaving the EU than the EU itself, because the EU is much bigger than the UK.
Okay, Carsten Brzeski, Vicky Pryce, thanks as always for joining us on Money Talks.